everyone, and thank you so much for that nice introduction, quite comprehensive introduction. Karishni, it's so good to hear from you. Yeah. I must mention something before we proceed further. I want to thank Dr. Vijayendra Singh Ji for the pious start of this session with Guru Vandana. It was so wonderful to hear him. These are the value systems that we find in the generations. So thank you so much for doing that. Yes, Karishni, please go ahead.
Sir, we'd like to start with a very simple question. How do soft skills and hard skills play out in a career progression?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question and very, very common. Most people are confused between these two terms, hard skill and soft skill. See, hard skill is your core knowledge that you have consciously chosen as a profession, like so you pick up engineering, medicine, fashion, whatever you pick up. So whatever knowledge that you gain is termed as hard skill. And what most people say and mention about soft skill, actually soft skills are not so soft and not so irrelevant. Believe me, soft skills, what we call like communication, how you present yourself, believe me, they are the drivers or the delivery wagons, the delivery system of your hard skills. Come to think of it, that if the communication was not there, would we be sitting across and speaking on this forum? Would any learning happen in the world? Would any kind of society would have existed without communication? So, I personally at times get a little offended also when people term communication as a soft skill. I personally believe that communication is a core skill for life, because with no communication, you can't survive. Come to think of it, with all of us are there in the world, and there's no communication. We're all doing our own thing. It would be such a weird situation. So soft skill, this is for all the students out there. You can share this with others who are not here present also, because soft skills play a major role in how you succeed in life. Because with you, there would be a big batch of people who have skilled themselves for a profession or for the core skills or professional skills. But the delivery and the application of those core skills totally are dependent on your soft skills, how you present them, how you reach out, how you plan, all those factors. So I personally believe both need to be there, and we need to start giving more importance to these soft skills, what they're termed as, because they would be your delivery wagon of all the knowledge that you have gained and how to apply that knowledge in real life situations, moving from academic to a corporate setup or an organizational setup or the real world where you apply all the learning that you have done. So soft skill will be a major impact at that level.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you. Like you said, communication is so important, but some of us are not inherently good at communication due to whatever several factors. So are we at a disadvantage? So how do we overcome this?
Karishni, what I personally believe in all the years and my own life experience, there's no person in the world who is not good in communication. It's a statement I am making. It is only the barriers that we develop basically play adversely on the natural instincts of our communicative abilities. And those barriers basically they take place during our formative years, early childhood, when there's a child who wants to express and talk and ask question and is curious, and the parent tells them and shoo them off that you talk too much, go stop talking so much. Even in classrooms, children are punished because they talk too much. They're talking in the class and they're punished. Believe me, communication is a natural trait. A small child, when they're hungry, they know how to ask for food or how to show their displeasure or a discomfort. So coming back to the professional stage, I personally believe everybody has that ability to communicate, because communication is again mistaken with a language. Communication is not about English, Hindi, Sanskrit, Farsi. It's absolutely a ability to express yourself. It's basically an ability that what you want to say and you reach out to somebody else. That is communication. The language is basically another. It's a medium that you use. So the barriers that we develop, that and the most of the barriers are based on what others would think. The importance of when you start giving more importance to people than you yourself, believe me, most of your capacities, capabilities, they go for a toss. You need to start believing that, I am important, so whatever I have to say or convey to somebody else, it has its importance, because I want to convey that. The moment you start believing, what would somebody else think, how would they am I able to impress them, or am I like, you're nervous, you're appearing for an interview, you're appearing for some of your verbal test or examinations. Now what happens there? The issue is that, the fear factor, that will I fumble or will I falter, it becomes so strong that something that you would have done absolutely well, probably that barrier creates a erratic delivery system. So I personally believe, and all of you need to believe in yourself, all of you need to stand in front of a mirror and speak to yourself full sound and tell yourself whatever you want to tell. And believe me, the more positive you are, the more appreciative you are about yourself, the better you can be with any of your skills. The biggest blunder is that we expect others to praise us. We expect others to get impressed by us. But are we really appreciative of ourselves? Hardly. Whenever we look at the mirror also, we always finding that pimple or that spot, or my hairstyle is not looking good, I have a stubble, is something which is not so positive. You're looking for the negativities on that mirror. Why you need to do that? Why can't you look at the mirror and tell yourself, wow? And the confidence to speak and to communicate starts from there. Believe me, communication should not be practiced only for that room of interview. Because if you do that, you will again restrict it to that interview room. And life is not in a room. Life is on the road, on your day-to-day experience and exposure. So you need to apply yourself, appreciate yourself on everyday situation. Even when you're talking at home, you're talking to your friends. I've seen some wonderful people. They are so communicative with friends. The moment they meet a new person, they start fumbling and they get nervous. The reason is that, they have restricted it to a group of people. You need to move beyond that.
Very well said, sir. I agree with you. Um, so when you sit for interviews, a common question that is asked is, tell me something about yourself. So in such a case, what should we talk about? Because we are freshers, we don't have a lot of experience. So that leaves us, out of topics to talk about in such a situation.
Yeah, very valid question. And then can you believe a lot of grown-ups have this issue? It's not about facing an interview. I'll tell you from where this starts, from where things go wrong. We start believing our position, our experience to be us. A lot of people I have met in my life, when they introduce themselves, they first talk about their position or their designation. I am so and so, and then they will take the name. It is a psychological thing, because they start believing that that seat that they are on, or that position that they have actually attained, is so important that when I take the name of that position, somebody will get impressed. You need to understand, It is you who has achieved that position. So you have more capability. That's why you are in that position. So you are more important and you have to give importance to yourself. So when you're facing an interview, you are an individual. You're on the other side of the table. There's somebody else on the other side of the table who has an advantage of years and they had an early start than you. That's why they're on the other side. You have started your life. You're not any less than anybody in the world. The moment you believe that I am there and I would be on the other side of the table in a short time, you will never get nervous. You need to first know yourself to be able to answer this. Like I said a little earlier, how many times have you looked at the mirror and appreciated yourself? That, wow, you look good. Most of the time, where our favorite colors, our favorite shirt is because somebody complimented us in that. And that becomes a favorite color because उसमें मुझे तारीफ मिलती है. So you may not like that color, but then it becomes a favorite because everybody appreciates you for that. What is the social media? You basically put a post for those thumbs ups. And if you don't get 10 thumbs up by another 5 minutes, you're so depressed that it means something wrong with me. I'm not capable enough. People don't appreciate what I write. You need to understand that you are an individual. There is no copy of you in the world. Right? We are not a copy of anyone. We are an individual. If you're an individual, who are you competing with? And why are you scared? You need to first start focusing on who you are. And who you are does not mean your achievements only or your professional exposure. It means a person who is sensitive, who has friends, who has a social life, who has a family, who cares for a pet, who cares for the nature, who takes care of the plant, who goes for a walk, who also likes to sing, who also likes to sketch. And this is you. Actually, what you want to eat, that is you. And when you go to a professional interview, when they say, tell me about yourself, they are not looking for answers of, I can repair this machine, or I can make this model, or I can recite this this theorem so well. They're not looking for that answer. They know that you've been through a professional training in an institution. You would already be trained on them. They're looking for a person who has good skills to deal with another human being, who has the right sensitivities, because these are the factors which make us a quality human being. Any organization are looking for good human being to be a part of their team members so that there's a lot of positivity in the work environment. Technical aspects, they already know you have trained yourself on. So when they say, tell me about yourself, the reason why you struggle and fumble with the answer is because you never actually bothered to know yourself. And you have always valued yourself with the numbers you have got, with the excellence that you have got on your report cards, and those materialistic factors. Go beyond that. If you have done something good for somebody, that's you. Have you helped a person on the road? That's you. Talk about it. And it's not difficult. If you start talking about your belief system, it will come naturally to you. You don't have to mumble with it, or you don't have to mug it up. It comes naturally to you. And that is what they're looking for in an interview. Be a natural. Believe me, when you are yourself, anybody sitting on the other side of the table, it's very visible to them. And that is what they're looking for, an individual who is a good human being.
That's very insightful, sir. Sir, another question that we have is that in interviews, should we have a balanced approach, or should we strongly put forth our views?
Again, the wonderful question. Again, you are joining, or you are a prospective employee of that organization. And each organization have their own vision and mission and a belief system and a work culture, which has been very carefully inculcated by the owners or the top bosses or the person who's created that organization. They're not looking for people who would disturb that equation. They're not looking for people who have strong belief to disturb the existing system. So you need to be balanced. See, end of the day, whatever is your personal belief system, the moment you onboard an organization, the rules and regulations or the vision of the organization supersedes your own personal belief. Because if you are sitting on a chair, which is as a manager, and there's somebody, I'll just give you a small example to understand it better. And somebody comes in who has not reported and was absent, did not even inform the office. They come and tell you, I had an emergency, medical emergency, right? There's no provision in the rule book of that organization that, if somebody is absent, you need to deduct 1 day's salary without information, that is. So if this person is absent without information and you know it was a medical emergency, personally, yes, you would always have those sensitivities and say, okay, this time don't do it again, always inform. But since you're sitting on a seat and you are in a responsible position, and if the rule says without information absence means 1 day deduction of salary, you need to follow it, because you are also answerable to the organization you are employed. You've been given a responsibility, and there's a lot of trust that they have put in you. So from your own pocket, you want to help, you can do your own gestures, but if the rule book says this has to be done. So the reason I gave you this example is to make you understand that when you are in an organization or you're wanting to get into an organization, the belief system of that organization will always be stronger than your own personal belief. You may carry your value system, right? Always carry that with you, but don't make yourself stronger than the system the organization follows. It will always put them on alarm or an alert. So you need to be balanced. Because interviews are a very short period to understand people. And you need to be very careful and balanced during that time.
Right, sir. Right, sir. So, one more question. Should one work for a few years before pursuing masters, or should one directly sit for placements?
See, this is a good question, but then this is very situational. It is not that across the board you can have the same condition. There are some professions where taking a break and getting a hands-on experience helps you take a decision that on which aspect or which specific skill you want to do your master's on. So you can make a better decision once you get there in the actual work situation. But in some professions, if you take a break and get into a job or get into an experience and then say I'll do my master's, believe me, you will never get the time. And you will get so involved in your day-to-day work and you start enjoying, because at the end of the day you're just moving out of college, so the new experience becomes too exciting. So then there comes a gap. I know so many people that they have done their masters after 10 years or 15 years. Those are options available. Absolutely. So it's very situational. There's no, there can't be an answer which says one size fits all. Yeah.
Absolutely, sir. So, like you talked about working. So, I've seen many people who lose interest in their work and their professional lives, just waiting for the weekend, week after week. So, what is your advice for a young professional like me to avoid a burnout?
See, it's actually not a burnout. It's a very valid question. And it's happening all around us. And it's not with young professionals. Believe me, people around 40s, 45, even at 50s, close to retirement, suddenly start feeling that I was in a wrong profession and I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. So the aspect is where that was your earlier question. When you are asked in an interview, tell me about yourself. You need to know yourself. You need to identify what you actually enjoy doing, what you enjoy in the profession that you've chosen. So when you're making a decision of your career, not a job, like Dr. mentioned a little while back, when you're choosing a career, it's one of the most important decisions. It is not for 5 years, 10 years, 14 years, it's for the rest of your life. So that is the time where you need to have the right filter systems. There are many available tests available, psychometric, biometric tests. I also follow some, practice one of these tests. But the aspect is, when you're making that decision, don't make that decision based on somebody else's aspiration. Because when we are not alike, how I apply a situation or how I look at a situation is very individual. My solution cannot be given by somebody else. I have to find my own solution, because when somebody is giving me some solution, it is how that person looks at that problem and what will they apply in their life to find a solution. So your solution you have to find out. So the same thing applies, and the same thumb rule will apply when you're making a choice of profession. And when you choose a profession and you don't enjoy it in the first 5 years of your life or 10 years of your life, believe me, be brave and change it. Don't hang on to that rope, because the more older you will grow, more tough it will be to hang on to that rope. The chances of falling down will be very high. So making the right choice, making the right decision, and if you make the right choice, you will enjoy what you're doing. And this is the best thing in life. People talk about work-life balance. It's the biggest buzzword in the corporate circle. Work-life balance is nothing but enjoying what you're doing. Because if you enjoy what you're doing and you spend 8 hours or 10 hours in your office environment, and if you stress out, you carry that stress back home, which affects or infects people who have no fault of theirs. Okay, so you need to balance it out. And the right aspect to saving this burnout is make the right choice, because you will only feel fatigued, tired, or not enjoy your work if you made a wrong decision. And if you realize if 5 years into a profession that is a wrong decision, change it then and there. And I have people who come in midlife crisis. Most of the professionals will go through it. This is one of the most biggest aspect, where you're doing something for 20 years and then suddenly you realize, I am actually feeling tired. The early years and the young age does not make you realize it, but as you age, you start feeling the burden, and it's not good to carry baggage. So it's not about burnout. It's all about the right choice. Recorrect your department, or recorrect with your focus area or the profession you've chosen. So making the right decision. So you need to be more careful when you are actually deciding the profession. It is not, a lot of people don't take it seriously. It is, oh, my friend is doing it, my parents have told me, this is the profession happening. You need to focus on your skill, because 10 years down the line, you don't know which professions will exist. But it will be basically practiced by human beings, and it will be practiced for human beings. Even we got talk about AI and all these factors. End of the day, who's going to further develop AI? Human beings. Who will be applied for? Human beings. So the human skills will remain. Identify your high skill areas, high skill potential areas. Choose a profession based on that. You would be happier.
Thank you, sir. That was really insightful and informative and really helpful as well. With this, I would like to conclude this question answer session. Thank you so much for taking out the time.
Thank you, Karishni, and very well, question and good questions, very relevant. Thank you so much.